Welcome back to Doing the Math at Home. My name's Tracy Fox, and I'm a Teacher Development Specialist. This is HISD at Home TV. Today, we are going to focus on representing numbers to 1200 using concrete, pictorial, and abstract models. Before we get started, there are a few things that I need you to grab. The first thing I need you to grab is a notebook or some sheets of paper. I also need you to grab some colored pencils or a pencil or a marker. We're going to be using these things throughout our lesson activity for today. Let's review our base 10 blocks, their pictorial representations, and the values they represent before we get into figuring out standard form, expanded form, and word form. So we can see that we have 4 different base 10 blocks available to us. Our first base 10 block is a unit. It can be represented with a dot, and it has a value of 1. Our next base 10 block is a long, which is composed of 10 groups of units. We represent a long using a line, and we know that its value is 10, and we also know that it is composed of 10 groups of 1. Our third block that we're going to use today is our flat. And our flat is a square. It's composed of 100 units or 10 groups of 10. And we use a square as our pictorial model to represent a value of 100. And we know that its value is 100, but we also know that it contains 10 groups of 10. And our last base 10 block that we're going to work with today is our thousands cube. And to draw the cube, we simply draw a square, draw another square on top, and a square on the bottom. That represents my cube, which has a value of 1000. But we also know that a thousands cube is composed of 10 groups of 100. We will need this information as we move into our next piece of our review, which is building numbers up to 3 digits. Let's take a look at an example of a 3-digit number. So boys and girls, as we get started, go ahead on your piece of paper at home, take a piece of paper out, and create the place value chart that you see at the top. And then as we go through, we will also create the standard form, the expanded form, and the word form. For this part of our review, we also have a few other tools here. We have flats that represent 100. We have some longs that represent groups of 10. We have some digit cards that we'll be using today. And then we also have some units, which represents our ones. So let's start off by taking a look at a value. So we have the number 425 today. And when we think about 425, we need to be able to decompose this into each of the place value positions that we see in our place value chart. So we know by looking that we have 4 in the hundreds place value position. We have a digit of 2 in the tens position, and we have 5 in the ones position. So now that we know that we have 4 groups of 100, 2 groups of 10, and 5 groups of ones, we can now begin to build with concrete models our place value. We can now use our place value blocks to represent the digits in each place value position. In the hundreds place, we can exchange our digit card of 4, and we can give ourselves 4 groups of 100, 100, 200, 300, and 400. So we see that. We need 2 longs. Each long represents a value of 10. So that 2 represents 10 and 20, and I can see the 2 longs that I have. And I need 5 units. And those 5 units will represent a value of 5. So now that we've done this, we can now begin to exchange our concrete blocks for our pictorial representation. So how many flats did we draw? We drew 4 flats. Each flat has a value of 100, so we know that we have a value of 400 here. So each flat, that's one flat with a value of 100. A second flat, so we have 100, 200, 300, 400. So my value is 400, and in words I can write that as 400. Be sure that you're drawing this with me. In our tens position, we can remove the 2 longs, and we will draw our 2 longs. Each long has a value of 10. So 10, 20. My value is 20, and we can write that in words as 20. And we will repeat the process with the ones. And I say I have 5 units, so we're going to remove those 5 units. And we're going to draw them with our pictorial representation. I know the value is 5, and I can write that in words as 5. So I've now gone to a pictorial representation, and we are now ready to start looking at our different abstract forms on how we can represent this number. So we know that we have 425. When we look at 425, this is representing our value in standard form. Standard form is just a big fancy way of saying, what's our number? Our number is 425. Now in expanded form, we can go ahead and we're going to use the number values that we wrote up above to create our expanded form. And when we think about expanded form, we're taking the value of each place value position and we're joining them together. So when we represent this, this will be 400 plus 20 plus 5. And the last way that we're going to represent this number is in word form. And word form is how you speak the number. So when I say 425, I want to be able to write those in words. Well, we did some of that heavy lifting when we were writing out the value in words of each place value position. Now we can put them together and write this in word form as 400 25. Okay, boys and girls, we have now represented our value using base 10 blocks. We've drawn a pictorial model, and we've done abstract representations in standard form, expanded form, and word form. Let's get ready to transition into our Let's Learn section. Boys and girls, we reviewed our base 10 block representations, how to draw them pictorially, and the values, and we've had an opportunity to use those tools as we built a 3-digit number. For our Let's Learn section, we are going to represent numbers to 1200 using concrete, pictorial, and abstract representations. So for this section, I need you to go ahead and grab another piece of paper and draw your place value chart again. And we're also going to build the number using units that represent a value of 1, longs that will represent our value for tens, flats that will represent our hundreds, and then our cube that's going to represent our value of 1,000. And then we do have our digit cards available for our next section. So Cooper brought me a number and said, hey, build this number. Let's work on this number together. So he showed me this number, 1,154. So let's decompose this value. We have a 1 in the thousands place. We have 1 group of 100. We have 5 groups of 10. and 4 groups of 1s. So let's go ahead now, and just like we did with our 3-digit number, let's exchange a digit card for the base 10 block that represents that value. So in the thousands place, I see that I have a representation of 1. When I exchange this, I'm going to exchange that 1 for 1 base 10 block of 1,000. I have 1 group of 100, so we're going to exchange that for 1 flat. I need 5 groups of 10, so we'll exchange the 5 groups of 10 for 5 longs. And then I need 4 units to represent the 4 groups of 1 that I have. So now we've represented this value using our base 10 blocks. Now we need to draw. So remember from our concrete base 10 block representation anchor chart that we can now draw each of these blocks using a pictorial model. So for the 1 group of 1,000, we can remove that and we will draw an image of our cube, and we know that that represents a value of 1,000, and in words it represents the same value. So when I read the number, I can write the number in words. So here I see that I have 1 flat, so we're going to once again use our square to represent the 1 group of 100. We know that that value in numbers is 100, and in words we will write what we say, which is 100. In our tens position, I see that I have 5 groups of 10, and each group of 10 has a value of 10. So we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So let's go ahead and pull those away, and we will represent the 5 groups of 10. It has a value of 50, and we can write the word 50. When we get to the ones place value, once again we see 4 units. We can remove those, draw our pictorial representation of our 4 units, record abstractly with the number 4, and we can write 4 out in words. So as we see, we have now built our value and we have represented it with pictorial images. So what does standard form mean again? Standard form is just the representation of the number, and so we can see that on our card, and we can see that 1,154. When we move into expanded form, we're looking at the sum of the place value positions, which will be the 1,000, the 100, the 50, and the 4. So in expanded form, we have 1,000 plus 100 plus 50 plus 4. And if you join those together, you will get a sum of 1,154. And the last thing we need to do is represent this in word form. We now will use the words that we wrote earlier to describe the value in the place value position. So we will start with 1,000 100 50 4. So we've been able to represent this using our pictorial models, standard form, expanded form, and word form. Let's take the opportunity to look at one more example. Our second example will be 1,106. So take a minute to decompose that value into your place value chart. When I see the number 1,106, I know that I have one group of 1,000, I have one group of 100. I have 0 tens, no tens, and I have 6 groups of 1. So let's go ahead now and let's exchange our digit card for our base 10 blocks. While I'm doing this at home, I want you to go ahead and I want you to draw the representation of the block that you have. So for the one group of 1,000, I can replace that with a cube. For the one group of 100, I can replace that with one flat. So I have one group of 100. I don't have any tens, so I'm going to leave that blank. And I need 6 units, which are going to represent my 6 groups of 1. So now I've been able to represent this value using my base 10 blocks. So now let's go ahead and draw our pictorial representation. So I'm wondering if you have already drawn what I'm going to replicate for you. So we're going to remove the thousands cube, and we are going to draw the picture of our cube. And as we do so, we know that the value of one group of 1,000 is 1,000, and in words, that is 1,000. I know that I have one group of 100, so I'm going to replace my flat with a square. The value of one flat, or one group of 100, is 100, and in words I can write that as 100. I don't have any groups of 10 because we had a 0 in that place value position, but I do see that I have some units that are representing my ones position, and so I know that I have 6 of those. There's 2, 4, and 6. I can pull those down, and I'm going to be able to represent those using my 6 dots. So that value is 6, and I can write that in words as 6. So now we're going to go ahead and move into the abstract representations, which once again includes standard form, expanded form, and word form. So our value is 1,106. This value on the card is standard form. Now we need to go into expanded form. And as we move into expanded form, remember, we're using the values that we wrote to describe what was in that place value position. So I have 1,000 plus 100, and remember I don't have any tens, so I don't have to put that there, and I have 6 ones. So if I join these quantities together, 1,000 plus 100 is 1,100, and 6 more is 1,106, which matches my standard form. And then now we'll be able to write this out in word form as 1,000 106. And where did we get these word form values from? We've got them from our place value chart, and as we described, the values that were represented in each place value position.
Boys and girls, we've done a lot of work today. We opened our session today by reviewing how to represent numbers up to 999 using base 10 blocks, pictorial representations, and abstract representations. We then moved into our Let's Learn section, where we built numbers using base 10 blocks. We drew pictorial representations of those 4-digit numbers, and we also went ahead and represented those abstractly using standard form, expanded form, and word form. Now we're getting ready to move into the Let's Practice. Parents, this is a great time for you to pull out a camera and take a picture of our practice problems that we would love for your kids to work on. There's 2 of them, so pull the camera out, feel free to pause the video or take it, snap a quick picture if you need to. Let's look at our first problem. Phoebe represented a number using base 10 blocks as shown below. Represent the number shown in the model above using standard form, expanded form, and word form. A, standard form. B, expanded form. C, word form. Let's look at our second problem. How can you represent the number below using standard and expanded forms? 1044. A, standard form. B, expanded form. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining me today. If you have questions about the lesson that we covered today, please feel free to reach out to a teacher. You can also find additional information on our Houston ISD at Home webpage. My name is Tracy Fox, and I'm wishing you an amazing math day.